Lowenthal. Congressman Lowenthal is the representative for California's 47th District. He is the co-chair of the Vietnam Caucus and the Cambodia Caucus, and he has been instrumental in negotiations for the release of several Vietnamese prisoners of conscience, including Pastor Chin, who is with us here today, and he currently also serves on the bipartisan Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. So I would like to welcome Congressman Lowenthal, and with that we will officially begin our Human Rights Award ceremony for Mother Mushroom. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I'm proud to be back here and to join everyone with the Captive Nations Week Summit. As pointed out, I'm the co-chair. My name is Alan Lowenthal. I represent, as you pointed out, the 47th Congressional District, which entails much of Little Saigon in Orange County. That's half my district. The other half of my district, I represent all of Cambodia town in Long Beach, which is Cambodia has its own human rights issues going on now. They denied them free and fair elections. But that's it for another day to come here and talk about the loss of freedom and democracy in Cambodia. Today, as pointed out, I'm really honored to be here honoring Mother Mushroom, who's an incredibly important activist. You know, I've been working on the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. Fortunately, I'm now in the executive committee. We have had 3 prisoners of conscience released. Pastor Win Kong Chin, activist Win Tien Trung, and also human rights attorney Win Van Dyke. I also have been advocating now for the most venerable Taekwondo, who is now in his 90s. It is outrageous that he is still under house arrest. He is not given freedom, and he is no threat to anyone, and it's just a crime against humanity that the way he has been treated, especially at the latter part of his life. And rather than being honored, they're attempting to disgrace his name and to treat him this way. You know, I'm really honored to be here at the time that the organization is honoring Mother Mushroom. She's an incredibly brave and important activist. She's known internationally for her struggle for the Vietnamese people, who's spoken out against corruption, one of the champions of the people who have experienced the tremendous problems with the chemical spill at the Formosa plant. It was really her leadership that spoke out against it. She's spoken out against human rights abuses, and what we've seen is threatening the Vietnamese government that they arrested her, convicted her, and sentenced her to 10 years in prison. All for doing what is called anti-state propaganda, which means she spoke out for the people of Vietnam. She was exiled, paid tremendous cost to her own freedom and her ability to be within her homeland. She can't do that. And it really illustrates what's going on in Vietnam, the refusal by the government to deal with any sense of self-protest. And, you know, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. I believe I think it was 2015, it may have been 2014-15, when Vietnam was really trying to become part of the TPP. It was my experience that they were at least wanting the United States to have a relationship, and they committed themselves to loosening efforts and allowing for some kind of dissent and releasing some prisoners. We thought it was maybe the hardliners were losing control to some of the younger people in the government, but we soon learned that was wrong, absolutely wrong. When the United States and Vietnam did not complete the TPP process, the Vietnamese government turned dramatically against its own people, and it turned dramatically away from the United States. We see that not only with great activists like Mother Mushroom, but really activists from the United States, people from the United States. You know, earlier we worked very hard for Will Wing. As we all know, Will Wing was a Yale graduate, grew up in the United States, was a very bright young man, went to Singapore, was getting his master's degree at the National University in Singapore. As part of his holiday, just before his graduation exercises, he went to Vietnam at the same time. I believe that was in June of 2018, just to be there for vacation before he went back to Singapore for his graduation. And he was so excited when he was there to see the beginning of the protests that were taking place throughout Vietnam, and believed that he was part of a movement towards democracy, and he joined in just because he thought they were peaceful protests where people were just being allowed to express their views. As we all know, Will was quickly arrested, sent to jail. Took a lot of work by the U.S. government and many members of Congress, myself included, to fight to get him out. He was convicted, but then shortly thereafter was deported. Not so lucky from Orange County was Michael. Michael was also in Vietnam around the time of the protests. Dawn had been going every year, visiting family, friends. Went at the time of the protest, was there. Just shortly thereafter was dragged off a bus with two Vietnamese, was arrested. No one was told, even when he was arrested, supposed to leave within, I think, 72 hours. The United States government is supposed to be involved, and whenever an American citizen is arrested, the government was not involved. I don't believe it was after 10 days later before we even knew what happened to Michael. He was arrested in late June or July of 2018. It wasn't until a month or two ago that we even found out why he was being arrested. Almost a year later in jail, had a trumped up charges, was then convicted just recently of 10 years in prison for for engaging in anti-state activities. No one knows what he did wrong. He just showed up and stood, and participated with some friends. But certainly, in any other peace-loving, any other country that promoted democracy, there would be no charges against him. He was just exercising his right to be there, and there's no evidence that he ever did anything wrong. And yet now is serving a 10-year prison, and we don't know how, and the Vietnamese government has not been helpful at all in our attempts to try to get him released. It is a very, very sad situation that's going on there. So what's happened is that once again my colleagues Chris Smith from New Jersey, Zoe Lofgren from North San Jose, and myself, we've reintroduced now we changed it to the Vietnam Human Rights Act of 2018. The bill invokes sanctions under the Magnitsky Act to put travel and financial restrictions on those individuals who are seen to, as part of the government that has deprived people of their human rights and engaged in anti-human activities, anti-democratic activities. And we also think a number of years ago, Vietnam was released from being a country of particular concern. That has to stop, and Vietnam must go right back immediately until it demonstrates that it wants increased trade, and we should not be increasing trade at all with Vietnam. Vietnam. We should not be encouraging here until it demonstrates that it wants to engage start engaging in protecting the rights of its citizens, promoting freedom of religion, freedom of expression, and the ability of people to dissent. And so for that, we should be thinking, since it's gone just in the opposite direction and promoting that, it's gone to take away that even more so to its citizens. It should become a country again, as a country of particular concern, and we should put more limits on Vietnam. We should let it know that we're watching as part of U.S. foreign policy should be the promotion of human rights. Any country that wants our aid or support should be, we're asking to treat people with the same respect that they're asking us to provide to the government. And so it's a difficult time, but it's a time when it's clear that we must stand for democracy and freedom, and we must oppose those countries in the world like Vietnam that deny human rights and religious freedom of its citizens. So I'm going to continue to fight for that, and I'm so honored that today we are honoring Mother Mushroom, who has been the champion of human rights in Vietnam, who is here today, but unfortunately is not able to go home because went back to Vietnam. And so it's great that we're honoring her. Someday let us fight to make sure that Vietnam changes its ways and becomes part of the democratic countries of the world rather than an oppressive communist regime. So with that, I am so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your leadership, Congressman Lowenthal. We will now play a brief video message from the co-chair of our bipartisan congressional caucus for the victims of communism, Congressman Jeff Duncan from South Carolina, who regrets that he could not be with